Good evening, everyone, and it's now time for another edition of the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show here on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. I'm Thrift Barrnger alongside my partner in crime, Richard Holdridge, and we hope you enjoy the next 45 minutes to an hour as we have on a very special guest, a guy that gave me, honestly, Richard, my first opportunity in broadcasting when I was 18 years old, which is Bobby Roblowski, otherwise known as Bobby Z of the Press Box with Bobby Z and Friends, which was a longtime staple, 5-6 years running of one of the best sports shows that we had around here. So looking forward to having him on and talking his career, this market, doing sports here in Columbus, then also the Packers, NFL, the Super Bowl. And then we're going to talk some NBA too, specifically Doc Rivers becoming the new coach. And I got some stats and some stuff for him that I can't wait to unleash and get his opinion on it. But Richard, last night we had the privilege, and I mean privilege, to be at the Russell County Central game, and both games lived up to the hype.
Wow. Absolutely incredible. Probably one of the greatest games that I've called on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I know you've called some thrillers. I rival that up with the middle school championship last year. Just trading baskets back and forth. Russell County had this game won. Yeah. Josh Battle with 25 points. Russell County fought so hard. I know that they wanted this game so bad. And they had a 4-point lead.
Yeah.
And Central, they got to the line. They got a quick turnover. They made their foul shots. They tied it up. Russell County had a chance to win it in regulation. Timothy Littleton coming up so close to win it in regulation. And Central, even in overtime, Russell County had a lead.
Yeah, Richard, for one, shout out to Coach Jones and the girls program for Russell County. They were competitive in that first half. Second half started getting dominated by the entire Central roster, not just Jabria Lindsay, but great job by Coach Jones keeping it competitive. Rojetta Williams, phenomenal job this year. 17-9 are the Central Lady Red Devils, their best season in quite a while. And they are going to be playing against Auburn for hopefully a region championship, maybe win that. And like I said, they're one of the 5-6 teams in the state that can win it all this year. Really impressed with Coach Williams, Coach Billingsley. They've done a great job. Deloney, Garrett Griggs, who can knock down threes, Walker, and then, of course, Lindsay at the front of it. That Central Lady Red Devils, they're clicking all cylinders right now. They've been playing great basketball. But you were right, Richard. It went back and forth. It was tied at halftime. It was tied at the end of the third. And then in the fourth quarter, Central was up by 6 at one point. We thought they were going to just keep the lead. And then Russell County started making a comeback. And at the end of the game, Littleton was right there, left-handed layup that came up short. Overtime, they take a 4-point lead with under 2 minutes to go. And then you saw Bryce Dawson hit 2 huge threes. It was 82-78. By the time he hit his 2 threes, it was 84-84. And then after talking with Coach Battle, he really wished Littleton would have just jacked up the 3 or the 2-pointer, just took it to the basket. I know he was trying to find the hot guy who, in my opinion, was the MVP, even though his team lost, and Joshua Battle with 28 points. He was phenomenal catch and shoot, taking it baseline. He literally had an overall excellent game, played excellent defense. Really impressed with Russell County and their output. I know they go to 16-10, but they're already in the playoffs because they made the area championship. That's next Wednesday, February the 8th, Richard. And, February that's Thursday. And if they win that, they will be a number 1 seed going into the playoffs. If they lose it, they'll be 2. Either way, I like what I saw last night from their team. But Dawson, Hill, Townsend, they came up huge. Jonah Jones got a seal out at the end. And overtime game. It's Jack Patterson texted me from WRBL. He said, game of the year contender? No doubt about it. That probably is game of the year right now. But the thing is, Richard, we still got a lot of games to go. We're going to still be calling some playoff games with Glenwood and Calvary. I don't know, Richard. I'm a little hesitant on saying it may be the number 1, but right now it is. And
so far, hype. Yeah, it absolutely lived up to the hype. What an incredible atmosphere. That gym was packed, standing room only, not only for the varsity boys and girls, but for the JV too. We got there early. Chris and I got there early, and there was a lot of fans there for the JV team. And it's always great going back to Russell County. As many of you know, that's where I got my start in broadcasting as the public address announcer for football. And football was so much fun. I asked the basketball coach, Coach Battle, I'm interested in being the PA announcer for basketball. I love football so much. Why not keep this momentum going and do basketball? Had so much fun as the PA announcer doing basketball. And Russell County is one of those rare schools. Pacelli is another one, Lee Scott Academy, that has a full-time PA announcer. You get that game day experience. It really hypes up the fans, and the players deserve it.
Yeah.
The players deserve, at least at a minimum, to have their names announced for the starting lineups.
I'll tell you this, Richard's he's the pallbearer. He's the torch holder for PA announcers out there at the high school level. He respects him. If there's a good PA announcer, he's getting a shout out throughout our broadcast.
No question.
No question about it. But let's move on, Richard, and other games that happen around the area. We're going to touch on them quickly. We'll hit on some college basketball after we talk with Bobby Z, but Pacelli, boys and girls dominated. Strong Rock boys and girls. Hardaway girls won. Hardaway boys lost. Spencer loses on a heartbreaking. The boys, the girls won, but the boys lose in heartbreaking fashion on a put-back layup, and that means Southwest is now the number 1 seed on the boys' side, and Spencer loses their 3rd game of the season. But I think the biggest win out of everything that happened last night was the Columbus Blue Devils.
Absolutely.
Daughtry, who is a top 10 team in the state in 3A, beat them by 1 at home. Like I've said, Coach Ivy's team, they're going to the playoffs this year. They're going to get a win in the playoffs. They're going to, even if they are a 4 seed and they play a number 1 seed, I see an upset happening because this team they are smart. They make the right reads. They can knock down shots. Robert Harford, Oakley Kuntz. I mean, these guys have been playing great basketball, but credit again to Coach Ivy Sr. and his staff. Brookstone got a big win. So we saw a lot of teams around this area, Richard, have good nights, great night of basketball. And Glenwood boys won. So now they are for sure in the playoffs. They got a big one tonight against Springwood. They win that. We could be doing the region championship on Friday, Richard.
That would be a lot of fun. Thrift, there's one team that I want to give a shout out to. And head coach Gerald Turner and the Jordan Red Jackets, they lost to Spencer by 2 on Saturday. They only lost to Rutland by 1 yesterday. Rutland is 13-9. I mean, I know Jordan, they're having a tough year. They've only won 2 games, but Coach Turner's got them playing hard.
Yeah, and that's the mantra with his programs is they play hard, they're physical, they're quick, fast, and they can run up and down. That he's that up-tempo type of guy, and Coach Turner's done a great job with the Jordan Red Jackets. And it's only a matter of time, just like with football, they're going to get on the right track. And Coach Cobb already done a great job with the girls program on the other side. All right, tonight, like we said, Glenwood girls play Macon East in the region semifinals, and the boys play number 1 Springwood, number 2 in the state. If they can upset them, you're talking about momentum, Richard, heading into the playoffs. And like I've said, they don't want to lose to them and then have to lose to either Valiant Cross or Lee Scott. They lose both these next 2 games. I mean, they'll be the 4 seed. They're going to face the number 1 team in the state in Bessemer. I don't think that's what they want. And they're going to have to go on the road to Bessemer. If they get a 3 or even a 2-1, they're going to host a playoff game. If they get a 3, they play someone that is not up to their caliber. They will have to go on the road. And then, of course, the semifinals and the state championship are going to be held at the Montgomery complex, the multiplex, but they need a win tonight or Friday. They don't want to be the 4 seed.
No, not at all. They don't want to have a tough road. I think that Glenwood, if they get the big upset tonight, they'll play the winner of Valiant Cross or Lee Scott. And, you know, when you're playing a team 3 times, they've already beaten Valiant Cross. I would probably guess that it would be Lee Scott, but Lee Scott has really been a tough out for the Glenwood Gators. As far as the Lady Gators, I think that they beat Macon East tonight, and they cruise to a region championship and an overall number 1 seed in the AISA.
Yeah, and that's why they're ranked as high as they are, Richard. Harris County girls, though, Big upset. They lose to a 7-14 McIntosh. I know Coach Dunn, she posted, not a good job rebounding. They just didn't play good. They were sleeping. And that shows you that in high school basketball, anything can happen. I don't expect this to continue for much longer. And maybe it's a blessing in disguise for Coach Dunn to tell your girls, hey, we can be beat. We have to bring our A game every night. And if that happens, I can see Harris County making a run all the way to the Final Four state championship. And this is with Bass putting up 35 points.
Unbelievable.
Tonight. So their leading scorer puts a 35-piece on McIntosh, and they still lose the game. Unbelievable.
It was a tough loss for Harris County. That their only two losses were to Central and Hardaway, and McIntosh was one of the lower tier teams in the region. Now they got to turn around and play Northside, or Northgate. Then they play Northside. Northgate is the second team in the region. Harris County still controls their own destiny. They only have one loss in the region. They're probably going to clinch the number one seed and get an overall number one seed when we come state playoffs time.
Yeah, well, like I said, still about 2 more weeks of region play for most public schools around the area, including Pacelli. I mean, they're in the GIAA, but they still have the same thing, Richard. So excited to see how the rest of the season plays out. I will put this out there that I know on the schedule, Richard, throw that up real quickly before we have on our guests. We are supposed to be at Hardaway Shaw Pacelli Heritage on Friday the 2nd. But if Glenwood does make the championship, both the boys and girls, we may have to reconsider where we're going to be. We'll for sure be at Heritage Pacelli, but we may end up being at the Glenwood Region Championship instead of Hardaway Shaw. We will keep you up to date on that, and that, again, determines we'll know that after tonight. Calvary Southland is not happening. I got a call from Coach Gordon, and the reason it's not being played is because Southland a few weeks ago had a region game that had to be rescheduled. This is the only day they have, and then they start playoffs and region tournament next week, just like some other schools, and they needed to use that date, so they just kicked Calvary to the side, and Calvary's now trying to make up with somebody. He said he'll let me know if they have a game, potentially could be a school in this area, Richard. So either way, we're going to be broadcasting it. It will be boys only, will not be girls. They have their senior night on Friday. We won't be there for that as they take on, the boys and girls take on the number one team in boys and girls, Creekside. That is a dominant program. And do not forget, on Sunday, our high school baseball media day, Richard.
Oh, I'm excited about that. Richard, you know, I love baseball.
And I got to give props. I'm going to do it on Sunday too, but this is Richard's brainchild after we had a successful basketball media day and we were part of other outlets and other entities' football media day. We decided, you know what, let's do our own high school baseball media day. And looks like we're going to have every high school coach and 2 players. We'll be there from 2 to 6. And then after that is a Pacelli basketball coaches show. And then we'll do our show as well. So that is the rest of the week. Tomorrow night, you'll hear Richard. He'll be calling the girls game of CVCC taking on Coastal North. And I'll be doing the boys game. But without further ado, it is time to bring on our guest. This man gave me my first opportunity when I was 18 years old. I remember messaging him on Facebook, and it's hard to believe it's nearly almost 15 years ago when I was 18. For one, that shows you how old I'm getting. But I'll never forget the opportunity that he gave me. Back then, it was a little immature. A lot immature. But now, looking back on it, there are so many nuggets and advice and the way Bobby carried himself and learning in this business that I apply to today. So here he is. It's Bobby Z, formerly of the Press Box with Bobby Z here in Columbus, Georgia. Bobby, how are you, man?
I'm good, Thrift. Thank you for that introduction. I appreciate it, man. But yeah, well, you know, you were 18 years old, dude. So I must have did something right because you're still doing it. So
right.
Good for you. Props to you. And props to you guys for covering it locally like you're doing. I had a hard time doing that, so I pretty much gave up because I wasn't from there. But you guys have jumped on it, and I hope you continue to run with it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Bobby. And like I said, being able to be a part of something that back then was a dream come true. But like I said, I know that everyone has their own path and everyone makes mistakes. And I always look back on those opportunities with Josh Pate, with you, Bobby. And again, in the moment, that's why I preach to a lot of young people. In the moment, I didn't understand what I was getting. I didn't understand the knowledge that and the worth that I was getting at that point. And I wish I could go back in time, but that's why we learn. That's why we grow up. And again, I always appreciate you, Bobby. You know, I love you, and I appreciate you coming on the show too.
My pleasure, man. And thanks again for those kind words. There's a lot of love on this side for you guys too, man. And like I said, I'm glad you're still doing it, because that's, to see you and Tyler and Buckets and Josh, and you guys are all still doing it. So that's, for me, that's awesome.
Yeah, Richard, I know you want to say something. Sorry.
Oh
man.
yeah. First of all, I am just honored that Bobby Z is on the show. Bobby, I've heard nothing but great things about you. I moved to Columbus in 2015. I know you were still doing your show. I wasn't really aware of local sports talk in Columbus, but I'm a historian. I look back at the history of broadcasting in Columbus, and I see how you paved the way for great broadcasters to go on and do great things like Josh Pate, Buckets, Jonathan Bam Rivers, Tyler Redmond, and of course, Thrift Barrnger. And I just think of your platform and allowing them to have a voice. I mean, it's something that if I would have known, I definitely would have loved to have been on your show. But I'm here. I knew that this is a platform where I could be on and I can thrive. But I think it's great that you had a show like that, and I would love to hear. I know that things were different back in 2012 to right around 2015 area. I mean, they didn't have like the live streaming and the archive that we have today, but if there was a way that we could just hear some of that footage, because I would just love to hear you and Josh Pate in the studio at Thrift, and that would have been some great times there.
There was some classic stuff on that show. It was a small market. We were almost in a closet in the back of the building, and we didn't let that affect us. We had fun. And as the show went on, as time went on, I just thought, you know what? I think the best way to do this thing is to let the listeners be characters. And we developed characters. I don't know whether the listeners knew it or not. That's what I was doing. And a couple of them, kind of fell into place. Like Egg Mo Brady. We always used to call him Ed, and not even know him. That wasn't. But he came in at the end, and he was a classic guy to finish the show with, and I think we just by, making them characters, they felt a big part of the show, and they pretty much carried it for them.
Well, and we're going to go down memory lane, but this is an open platform right now for you, Bobby. I want to go back into your career, because I remember a few years ago that you made a Facebook post and it had so many pictures with so many celebrities during your time in the video. It's unbelievable. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear
you.
Yeah,
you're saying behind you. Gotcha. So that's there. I want you to basically tell all the listeners, Bobby, from when you started your career, where was it at? Leading up all the way when you finally said, you know what, I'm done with the broadcasting part of it. Let's start from there. You tell your story, if you don't mind.
No, it really started, I might as well go all the way back. I'm going to go back to high school, because I really thought I was going to play professional basketball, but nobody had the guts to tell me no. So my dad just let me go, live your dream. You're going to find out that you're probably too small, and you have no left hand, and you're not good enough. But he let me find that out on my own. And when I got cut the second time in my sophomore year, I thought my world was coming to an end. But then, God has a funny way of closing doors and opening windows. It was like 2 months later, I was working in the Brewers clubhouse, So if I would have made that basketball team, I would have never got that job with the Brewers, and then that segued into the Bucks. And so here I am at 16 years old, driving Hank Aaron's car, just doing stuff like that I look back at stuff, and I got to pinch myself. Was that really real? Did all that really happen? And yeah, I picture me and Hank right over there. And so that's when it really started. I got the taste of that celebrity thing, and being in the clubhouse and being in the locker room. I'm on a few baseball cards, so I was kind of almost like God didn't let me play, but He put me in the dugout and He put me on the bench of the Bucks. So, I got close, and so that started it. And then I went to college at University of Wisconsin for radio, and I got an internship at WLUM here in Milwaukee, 1985. And what's crazy is the person that owned the station played for Vince Lombardi, and it was Willie Davis, one of the greatest defensive ends to ever play the game. And so I started working for him, and it was a R&B station, and at the time, it didn't rap wasn't being played, especially not in Milwaukee. All right, advertisers were afraid of it, and the first rap record we played in Milwaukee was LL Cool J. The song was "I Need Love." It was a ballad. It wasn't a rap song, but that's how we started playing rap in Milwaukee. We kind of crawled into it. We didn't want to piss off the advertisers.
Right.
So three years in, I was gone, and I was working at number one station in Dallas, and I was working with Tom Joyner. Tom was the fly jock back then. I don't know if you guys know about this. This is quite a while ago. Tom actually did mornings in Dallas. At 9:45, he left the studio, hightailed it to DFW, to Chicago, and did afternoon drive in Chicago.
Wow.
Did that 5 days a week. Once he became known, he backed off. Satellite became something that they could now utilize. They had Satellite in North Dallas, which eventually became his studio. But he was doing the flying back and forth only 3 times a week. But still, think about that.
Right.
Doing a morning show in Dallas, doing an afternoon drive show in Chicago.
Wow.
Spinning around and doing it all over again the next day. It's amazing. I then went to Houston after being there for 6 years and took an upstart station to number one there. Had a lot of help. We had 9790 Fox, probably one of the best staffs I have worked with. Young, hungry, very, very intelligent folks. And we had a couple of good leaders there as well. But then the corporations took over. And I really got into doing stuff at the drop of a hat. If something happened, I like to jump on it right away. It was worthy and make it a bigger story. And I was pretty good at it. We were on TV all the time. And back then, that was one of the only forms of advertising. We had such, but we didn't have to pay for TV because I was a TV whore, and we were on constantly. But I knew what buttons to push. And we raised $80,000 for a kid one day. I mean, in 14 hours, we raised $80,000 for a kid that got shot from a bicycle. Long story, but that kind of thing disappeared. When the corporations took over, prior to, radio was for the listener. Once the corporations took over, radio was for the advertiser.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And the game completely changed. So I then got into talk radio, sports, and because I was still personality driven. And I think that was really a gift from God to kind of close out my career. That's what I should have been doing. And then that was it. It was time to hang it up and come home. As you guys know, radio people aren't making a whole hell of a lot of money these days.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to eat on those salaries. Now, if you can do what you guys are doing, Richard, I know he's married, so it's a little different for him than it is for you.
Right.
Sometimes not enough hours in a day to do all the stuff you guys are doing, but somehow, some way, you guys are pulling it off. And I hope you're compensated for it, because at the end of my career, I didn't feel I was compensated for what I thought I was worth. And if you know your worth and you're not getting it, it's time to go someplace else. And it was time to come home. I think it was the wise decision. I get to see their kids grow up. I was gone for 30 years. I didn't see them a lot. So it's nice to be home with them. And do I miss it? Yeah, but not enough to give up what I came home to.
Yeah, and thank you again for that, Bobby. And these are the stories I used to get all the time as an 18-year-old, just being blown away at the people you were able to meet, being a ball boy for the Bucks. That was pretty incredible. Talking about Sidney Moncrief and all those guys play ball. And we're going to talk sports right now, but in this market specifically, and I'm going to try to be politically correct. I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but it's hard. It's hard, Bobby, to take in this market. Now people are starting to understand as we live stream and seeing the value because people care about high school sports. Hey, that's my nephew, that's my grandson.
I mean, when I said that earlier, you guys jumped on it, and don't let it go because that's how you.
I appreciate that. And, I just wish back then, and everyone gives you your flowers. I know Josh gives you your flowers, and we're talking about big time. I mean, my man Josh Pate just went from here all the way to now. I honestly think he's one of the biggest stars in college football, and there's no question about it.
His work
CBS.
Parallel.
Did you know when you open your platform when you're in the press box, Bobby, you really been like, you know what? I'm not bringing someone that's smarter than me that's going to make me look bad or whatever it is. That was you. So why did you allow Josh on? And did you know he was going to be what he is today?
Yeah, I did. And I'm not stroking my own ego. It's just that was a gift that I had also. Because I could kind of tell, with certain individuals, there were records too back in the day. Yeah, this is going to be a hit.
Right.
But with talent, yeah, I saw it in him from day one. Honest to God, day one. I asked him. I told him when he was we were on a break, and I looked at him, you are going to be a freaking star. And yeah, because I knew his work ethic. The dude doesn't sleep, and but that's what it takes, If you want to be great at something, you pretty much gotta dive in and give it your all. But then comes the time you start to worry about balance is important too, guys. Remember
Amen.
that. Balance in your life is important.
Amen.
Bobby, obviously the game has changed in sports broadcasting. We no longer have a platform 5 days a week. I mean, we still have Sports Visions, and it's only 2 days a week, but that's why I love Sports Visions, because we look forward to listening to Thrift, Barrnger, and DJ Jones on Mondays and Thursdays from 4 to 6. But there was a time when you had the press box with Bobby Z and friends where people could call in 4 to 7 on 95.7 ESPN Radio from Mondays through Fridays. Then it evolved to other shows after you left, and for 4 years now, we have not had local sports talk radio 5 days a week. But I think that because the industry has evolved and what Thrift, Barrnger, and I are doing with Georgia Alabama Sports Live, I think that that's the name of the game, is just to get noticed doing another platform. And that's how Josh Pate got so successful with the Late Kick podcast, because it got picked up on the CW and then eventually by 24/7 Sports up in Nashville.
That's it, baby. Syndication is the Yep. You can syndicate, guys. And have you guys started looking at sponsors yet? Because I would.
I'm not going to lie to you, Bobby. After last year, I started live streaming off of just a backstory on how we started this. I just wanted to start doing play-by-play. I enjoy it, and I'm doing it off my phone. I bought these little mics. You can put it into your phone. It's like a lavalier right here, and was just calling off my phone. Didn't have a scoreboard on it, but I was doing like playing radio. Like if you were sitting when you were 18, 15, calling a game on the TV, I was doing that from my phone going to these high schools. Well, I got in partnership with some producers and some guys that got nice equipment that can take us to the next level with the scoreboards. And I was like, you know what? There's a value to this.
Oh, yeah.
And luckily, I have made a name within businesses around here just being in radio for the last 6-7 years that I was able to take advantage of that. And there have been at least a handful of businesses that have supported us from football to now basketball and baseball. So we are getting compensated for it. And we don't do it for the money. We do it for the exposure for the kids. But you know how hard it is, Bobby.
We're not eat
5 hours a night.
Yeah. Hey, Affleck, sponsor these guys.
Thank you, Bobby. Let's now transition into some pressing issues, and we'll talk about the NFL first, okay? And I just want to say a shout out to a guy that mutual friend of both of ours, Joe Norman. When you took, and I'm talking about the Packers, the Cowboys to the woodshed, did you think that was going to happen? What was your whole thought process with the Packers this year, having an up and down season, making it to the playoffs?
I had to get on a few Packer fans early in the season, over the last few years. Our GM, you guys know this, he's gotten beat down hard. He drafts up when Rodgers is coming off with two MVP seasons, and he could use another receiver. We could have used Patrick Queen at the linebacker position too. Jefferson goes to the Vikings. Ayuk goes to and Rodgers gets nothing.
Bobby, I think you're muted. Bobby, I think real quick.
Yeah, we lost him for a bit.
Yeah, sometimes if you get a phone call, when you come back to the screen, Bobby, it does mute the microphone. I don't know if you can see that. If you want to click out of the link and maybe come back real quick. There you go. Can you hear us? I don't think he can hear us. Richard, let's take a quick break. Richard, we'll come right back, throw up a graphic, and we're going to keep more of our interview with Bobby Z here on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. Be right back after this.
All right, so now, Bobby, let's talk about the Packers and what happened this past postseason, which is pretty phenomenal, beating the Dallas Cowboys. Joe Norman, our mutual friend, I know he is sick to his stomach because this was the year the Cowboys were going to make the Super Bowl. But it's been an up and down season all year long. Did you think this was possible? Did you have envisioned they were going to be successful like they were this year?
No. No. All I wanted to see was whether Jordan Love was a legitimate quarterback or not. And all these young kids, I just wanted to see them progress. And boy, did they progress. I mean, it happened fast. Richard was nervous. We had you, Richard, for about 55.
Oh, yeah, I was nervous.
But, hey, the Niners won, and they had the better team, and they probably should be there. You better cash in, Richard, because that's going to be the last time you guys beat us. We're coming for you now. I think that's 4 in a row.
I do believe.
So we're coming.
I do believe that.
Anyway,
Bobby. I just want to say, I was very impressed with the Packers in the way they played that game. Jordan Love was the hottest quarterback going into that game. Happy that they beat the Cowboys, and absolutely nervous, especially when Aaron Jones ran that 50-yard run. When the Packers had the lead, the 49ers pinned them back at the 10-yard line. I thought the game was over. In fact, I actually got on Twitter and said, the game's over. I'm going to bed. Good night. I'm done.
Wow.
And I feel bad for the kicker for Green Bay because at the most, it should have been 24-17. And the 49ers would have tied it.
Yeah.
I did not think Brock Purdy could come back. And then the NFC Championship is another story. I could not believe they came back from 24-7.
Yeah, that was. I was at a Bucks event, and I was surprised that we were checking the score every so often. It's on 24-7. I was like, "Whoa, they're up by 17 at the half! Holy cow!" Yeah, you all came back. You got the weapons, but as far as the Packers go, yeah, I'm very pleased with where they're at right now. I think a lot of Packer fans are eating crow because they've. A number of them were hammering on our GM for the last few years. Instead of taking Patrick Queen, a linebacker, Jefferson goes to the Vikings. I don't think they would have had a chance to get him unless they would have really moved up in the draft. And we take Jordan Love and we move up to get him. And Rodgers wasn't happy. Packer fan wasn't happy. And I just kind of sat back as an old guy, and I was like, I've seen this before. We had Brett Favre, and they drafted Aaron Rodgers. Now, they didn't move up to get Rodgers, but they drafted him. It worked. So how can you argue with something that works? So I just sit back and watch instead of wanting to chop a GM's head off right away. I give him some space to do his job. Usually that's 3 to 5 years. So I didn't comment. I just kind of kept my comments to myself and just said, hey, he's a kid. Give the kid a chance. Let him sit behind Rodgers for a couple of years and give him a chance and let's see what he does. If he fails after a year or two, then go ahead, hammer him. But until then, just relax, have some patience, And then he trades Devontae Adams, and again, Packer fan loses his mind. And then he trades Rodgers. Hey, Goody had a plan from day one. LaFleur knew what he was walking into with Rodgers. He knew what kind of diva he was going to be. Now he's got a chance to run his own offense. Got to see that this year, and I was pleased. Amazing how receivers can all of a sudden get open, and they couldn't for Aaron Rodgers. Now, Rodgers did a lot for us, don't get me wrong, but the end started to sour. It started to get a little sour at the end, So Goody makes these moves, and they all pretty much turn out to be right, and he's going to be known for his legacy on where he drafted Jordan Love. That's it. That's what it's all about. It's about Jordan Love. And he had the stones to go get him. He had the stones to trade Adams, had the stones to trade Rodgers. And he nailed them all. So, yeah, I'm really excited about the future. He nailed the last 2 drafts. He's got 5 bullets in the first 95 picks this year. So I expect him to do his job again. And this is a very young team that is now getting out of salary cap hell. Rodgers' contract's off the books. We now just got to deal with Bakhtiari's contract, which is like a $40 million cap hit. So they're going to either redo that or they're going to cut him. And they'll save 20 there. Campbell will be another one that'll get his walking papers. They'll save some money there. I don't know about Preston Smith. Aaron Jones, they're going to redo his deal. I don't think they'll be able to make a big splash in free agency because they really could use a safety bad. They could actually use 2. So I think maybe the splash in free agency will be another 2 years down the road. But we're back, and it's pretty surprising how quickly they turn this thing around. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it has been unbelievable, Bobby. And to see the diva now in New York, which you got him and Jimmy Kimmel feuding. I mean, I know you're happy that you don't have to listen to that nonsense anymore.
Yeah, it got old. I don't want to hear about my quarterback wanting to go into a darkness retreat for 48 hours. I mean, what are you, nuts? I don't want to hear that crap. I want to hear you wanting to be with the rookies like you did with the Jets this last season.
Exactly.
He didn't come to OTAs in his last season here. And we had a bunch of rookie receivers. It's like, dude, do you want to win or what? It got old. It got old. You're right. I don't have to listen to that crap anymore because it's not about football.
No. Well, let's talk. Exactly. And speaking of winning, Richard, real quickly, and then we'll keep staying on the NFL for a few more topics. And I do want to talk NBA because I got some stats and I got some things I want to say about the guy that just became the new head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, which I think was the right hire. But I want to give you my opinion on it and him. But before we do that, the Atlanta Falcons. Shout out to Papa Falcon, Papa Pun. We had our chance to get Bill Belichick. Now, we did get Raheem Morris. What is your whole thought process of the way the Falcons went about interviewing? Do you think they got the right guy? Do you think they should have went after Belichick? What's your thought on what's happened with the Falcons?
Probably Pun would have answered this question better than me, but I'll try my best, Pun. I thought Belichick was a slam dunk. He's getting old. He's getting old. What is he, 82 now?
Yeah.
Arthur Blank? I think he's 82, and I was like, well, this guy got into this to win a Super Bowl. That's why he's doing this. And then, he's getting up there in age. Why not go get the guy? Go get him. And he had his second interview, and I called Pun. I said, well, man, was I right when I was telling my buddies at work 2 weeks ago that Belichick's going to go to the Falcons? He goes, I don't know, Bob. He's the office is kind of split on him. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, wow. Oh, boy. Okay. Raheem Morris, he was up here for a minute. Yeah. I don't know a lot about, so I hope he got it. I hope you guys got it right, because, I got a lot of friends down there, and Falcons fans they're pretty fickle. Let's be real. Yeah. It's more of a college town than pro town. So any help we can give Arthur Blank, more wins would be a good thing for Falcon fans. So I hope they got it right, but I don't know. Well, time will tell. Belichick not having a job, though, still, that's kind of surprising. But you're getting old, Bill. You're getting old. Maybe you should just take one job, or, I don't know, just some advice from don't know nothing.
Richard. Well, Bobby, I really think that next year it's going to be a lot of fun in that NFC North. It used to be Central. The Detroit Lions just retained Ben Johnson. I think that he was the reason why that Lions offense was so dynamic. I mean, they were a quarter away from going to the Super Bowl. They're blowing that 24-7 lead. I know the Lions fans are heartbroken. I know you as a Packers fan were probably happy, but I'm really excited about that rivalry between the Packers and Lions next year. The Bears are going to be improved because whether or not they get Caleb Williams with the overall pick, or they retain Justin Fields, or the Minnesota Vikings. We know that Kirk Cousins is not going to be there, but I'm excited to see this division and to see it play out.
The Lions, I was actually, believe it or not, nothing against you. Open Lions thing. I those old guys, especially guys a 50-year season ticket holder, and I had to think, God, what would it be like for to be a season ticket holder that long and to not even ever sniff the Super Bowl, and so I kind of that side of me was kind of rooting for guys like that. Moving forward, damn it, I wish Johnson would have went to the Redskins for obvious reasons. Be interesting to see what kind of money they give Goff. He's out here to ink Goff to a big contract. Vikings are going to be in the cellar next year, where they belong. The Bears, going to be interesting to see what they do with that number one pick. I mean, where do you guys think Justin Fields is going to be quarterback in next year? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be in Chicago or will he be throwing the ball to Marvin's son in Chicago, or will he be someplace else? I don't know.
I tell you where I want him to be, the Atlanta Falcons. I would love for the Falcons to go trade for him, who had the worst quarterback play out of any NFL team this year. That's where I would love for him to go, would be Atlanta. All right. I'm going to intro this, Bobby. I'm going to do it as best I can. Yeah, exactly. And then him being from that area, too. But I'm going to try to intro this as best I can. When I started with the press box, Bobby allowed me. Right.
I'm sorry, bad, but
you're good. When I did the press box, you allowed me to do college basketball, Bobby, and NBA, and I forgot the guy's name that me and him had a back and forth. But he was your basketball analyst. But the Milwaukee Bucks had to move on from Adrian Griffin. Maybe they shouldn't have moved on from Mike Budenholzer, even though he didn't like making adjustments. The guy could win, and he also brought you an NBA title. You gave Griffin all of about 4 or 5 months, and you canned him. You brought in a guy, and I want to say this because I think it's the right hire. But let's think about what Rivers has done. He won the 08 title, and since then he has not won anything. He has made the Eastern Conference Finals in 2010 and 2012 with the Celtics, but then ever since then, with the Clippers and the 76ers, and coaching guys like Paul George, coaching guys like Joel Embiid, Kawhi Leonard, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, James Harden, Rajon Rondo, and again, only having one title and hasn't made it to a conference finals and choked against the Hawks, has choked when he was the Clippers 3-1 lead against the Nuggets. The guy is not won in the playoffs, but I think this is the right opportunity for him to overcome that with this team, because I don't think he's ever coached a guy like Giannis other than KG a few years ago. 10 years ago, and he won a title with that guy because how much of a freak, how much competitive Giannis is. So talk about Doc Rivers being hired for the Milwaukee Bucks. Bobby, what did you think that means for your franchise? Bobby, let's talk about Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
Won a championship in 08, made it in the 2010 finals. Since then, has not won anything, and he's coached guys like Kawhi, Paul George, Joel Embiid, James Harden, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin. He's blown 3-1 leads in the divisional round, in the second round, multiple times. He has not made it to an Eastern or conference final since 2012. Yet was saying all that. Best hire, and I think this is his best opportunity to win. Why? Because he hasn't had a guy that is this competitive, that cares this much about winning. Since KG, and he won a title with him. So give me your thought on Doc Rivers as now the head coach of the Bucks.
I think you pretty much just said it. He's been there, he's done it. He's had a lot of personalities he's had to deal with, some that I wouldn't want to deal with myself. Harden, just off the top of my head, I never want to coach that clown. He had to do it. Over here, he's got Giannis, and he's got a guy in Dame Lillard that has never won one.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of vets, and that's probably why you should have went this route in the beginning. You bring in a rookie head coach to school a bunch of vets. Okay. Like I said earlier, I'll sit back and watch. And I questioned it. Stotts leaves a week before the season starts. 4 games into the season, the players change the defense. There are red flags popping up all over the place. This guy was in over his head. I'm sure he's a fine, wonderful human being, but he was in over his head. The problem was they hired him, and then it was a couple of weeks or a month later, that's when they made the Damian Lillard trade. That dynamic right there changed his whole job. He's got to now coach 2 guys that are used to having the ball in their hands, bringing it up the court. And it's not going to be easy to get these 2 to mesh overnight. So it was going to take time. Defensively, they were a sieve. I saw layup after layup after layup. And Milwaukee ain't playing. These dudes, it's unprecedented what they've done here. They are, I believe, the second highest paid team in the league. The smallest market in the NBA is Milwaukee. Second highest payroll in the league. These dudes ain't playing. They need to win. They were, knocked out of the first round last year in the playoffs. They could not have a repeat of that again. I believe they probably lost money last year. Not going to do it again this year. So they saw what was going on with the lack of defense. Offensively, they looked out of sorts every now and then. So it was time. I give them credit for admitting that they made a mistake. I think what their thought pattern was in the beginning was, let's get somebody that Giannis can maybe be friends with. Bud lived out here where I live on the lake, a good 40 minutes from downtown Milwaukee. You didn't see a lot of, let me say it this way. You didn't see a lot of basketball players out here, if you know what I mean. Okay. Mm-hmm. I really think they wanted to get somebody that Giannis could vibe with, and that was honorable way of thinking, but not a team loaded with vets, man. And then you bring in Lillard on top of it. This poor guy, it was only a matter of time. And they go get the man. He went to Marquette University, which is about 3 miles from Pfizer for him. So he's well liked. His banner from Marquette days is hanging. They retired his jersey, so it's hanging in Pfizer, and he can point to that every now and then if he needs to. I hope they can get deep this year, but if they don't, it will be next year. He's only got a half a season, and the second half of the season they have the toughest schedule in the league. First half was not that difficult. But yeah, you had to make that move because of the investment that these owners have put into that team. They have to go deep. They have to go deep in the playoffs. Otherwise, I don't know. They'll cut back, I would think, So right hire, got a vet, got a guy that's done it before, got a guy that's dealt with big personalities before. And I think he'll be respected here. And I think that it was the right move. Slam dunk, actually.
Yeah, I'm completely agreement with you. And if you're looking at the Eastern Conference, Siakam from Toronto goes to the Pacers. So
Yeah.
that's a home run.
Great
trade,
move.
in my opinion.
Yep.
So now you got the Pacers, a healthy Philadelphia with maybe another trade in the books. Boston. Who are the teams that you think are vying? The Heat with Rozier. Who if you had to name 2 or 3, maybe 4 teams vying for that chance to play in the NBA Finals, who would they be in the Eastern Conference?
Obviously, Boston. You bring up Indiana. Indiana has been really tough on the Bucks. I think they've won 4. They won 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
They just run up and down the court, and at times we looked. I don't know if we looked a little old or we just didn't care about playing defense. Maybe a combination of both. Indiana, though, is a team to watch. Cleveland's another one. If they wouldn't have lost Miles Turner and it's somebody else, excuse me, I forget. But they're a pretty damn good team, even without those 2 guys. Boston, obviously, number 1. We got to see what happened when Embiid went down last night. Knee problems again. And hopefully that's nothing serious because I don't like to see the stars of the game get injured and then be done for the season. I'd rather see them play it out. But Philly, obviously, yes. But if Embiid's going to be out for an extended period of time, then no. But yeah, I keep an eye on that Indiana team, man, especially since they brought in Siakam. That team is very interesting. They're fun to watch. They go up and down the court. And if you like scoring, they do it.
Bobby, I think that the landscape of the NBA right now, there's just so many teams out there that are really chasing greatness. We just don't see dynasties anymore. We see the Toronto Raptors winning a championship after 1 year, the Denver Nuggets winning. I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves or Oklahoma City Thunder can win a championship. But do you think that dynasties will take over in the NBA, or we'll see some one-hit wonders, a flash out of the pants? And can the Milwaukee Bucks be that dynasty and not just win the one title?
I think the Bucks will get another one. Obviously, I'm a homer, and I'm a season ticket holder, so I go to every game. So obviously, I do want to see another finals. But boy, that was fun. I'll tell you, that was
Let me ask that. You didn't get to be home for the Packers run back in 2010. You were actually here in Columbus, but seeing the Bucks. I know the Brewers have not made it to the World Series in quite some time, but the Bucks winning that, what did that mean to you as a fan?
Everything.
Unbelievable.
Everything, man. You guys know me. I'm all about sports and music, man, and I don't know a whole hell of a lot of anything else. But I'm a die-hard fan. It's in my blood. It's me and my dad. It's quality family time. When we used to go to the games together. It's everything, man. And I still feel a part of that team. When I was a ball boy for a couple of years, man, Marcus Johnson mentioned me on the air the year they won the championship. I'm sitting in my living room.
Unreal.
They're talking, Marcus and the announcer on TV during the game. And he's talking about ball boys. And he said, oh, let me tell you a story about Bobby the ball boy from back in the day. Dude, I almost fell out of my chair. So I still kind of feel a part of that team, as crazy as that may sound, you know.
No, it's not.
And for them to win it, I got into the atrium when it was over and the trophy presentation was done. I got into the atrium right before I walked outside through the doors. I dropped down to my hands and knees, put my hands up in the sky, and just had the smile on my face. And my nephew actually got a picture of it. So
Awesome.
I'll send it to you guys.
Please.
That kind of describes what I was feeling. It was incredible. Incredible experience, an incredible run. And I think we'll do it again. I do. Got the talents, and if it's not this year, we'll get back there again next year. Because Boston, I'm not sold on Boston because they got that big boy in the middle. And of course, he can't stay healthy.
No,
he can't. And I'm not hoping for him to get hurt, but I'm just saying, I'm stating facts. He can't stay healthy. But I'd like to see him at full strength because hopefully by then we'll be playing a little bit more defense. He missed Drew. Drew is a badass defender, I'll tell you what. And Dame doesn't play a lot of D, but he's a finisher, and that's something that Holiday struggled with at times.
So how about just having the best pick and roll basketball? I mean, you got Dame Lillard that can come off, pop from anywhere, 40, 50 feet, and Giannis running to the rim. I mean, that's unstoppable. I feel like we ain't seen a lot of that, though, this year.
No,
you probably should.
Very good. Yes, very good, Thrift. You're absolutely right. Everybody was saying that when the trade went down. It's like, wow, God, that's the pick and roll, that high pick and roll off the free throw line. They're going to kill it. Thrifty, I'm not seeing it.
Me either.
I see it a handful of times here and there, and I'm like, I look at the guy sitting next to me. He's a season ticket holder. I said, what the hell? Why aren't we seeing this more often? So I think we're going to see a little bit more of that moving forward.
I think so too. All right, Bobby. I like we haven't done this because we haven't had someone with your experience on. We have guys that are up and coming or working their way. DJ Jones would be another one, and I did ask him this similar question. To all the young broadcasters out there or people in general that want to get into this field and think it's just, hey, you turn a mic on and you start talking or doing DJing or whatever it is, not understand all the aspects like that you were throwing nuggets on me back then. What would be some of the things that you would like to tell? And I know you probably still talk to young guys like Tyler Redmond back in the day or myself. What would you say to them now?
A lot of the game has changed, because we're doing stuff right now, you and I and Richard, that I've never done before.
Right.
We didn't have the internet. We couldn't stream and all this other stuff, so it's different. But I think the game, life, when you want to do something, whether technology changes it or not, it's still that passion and it's still the desire and the want. That's it, because there's too many dudes doing this stuff that really, really want to do this stuff,
Yeah.
And you got to stand out. There's got to be something about you that stands out. So find yourself a little niche and dive in it. And I think that's what you guys are doing now with this high school stuff. Package it, and dive in it. But yeah, you gotta give it 110%, and you got to enjoy it, because nothing's worth doing if it's not fun, right? And don't be afraid to fail. I think that's a key one, because I failed a bunch of times. I think we all do in life. We all screw up, but you just got to, dust yourself off and keep on moving, And if a certain place tells you no, and you want it bad enough, and you show somebody you want it bad enough, yeah, maybe that old guy will let you in the door, if you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. And I'm going to say this before we let you go, Bobby, and we really appreciate your time, and I love talking sports for you. And I'm going to try to say this and not get too emotional, because not a lot of people have believed in me and really invested in me. You didn't know who I was. It's not like we were family. You saw me grow up. You literally answered a message on Facebook and you opened your doors. You didn't have to do that. An 18-year-old didn't know anything, and just to come in literally put me on air, showed me how to find my voice. I'll be forever grateful, Bobby. And I know that there has been some trying times in my broadcasting career, and there's the the ups and the downs. And I feel like I'm on the up right now.
Yeah.
But I always appreciate you, Bobby. Don't ever think I didn't. I love you, brother, and I really do. It means the world to me that you come back on. And like I said, me, Redmond, Pate, when we get around each other, I see Pate all the time when I'm covering college games like the Georgia game or whatever. I'm telling you, we talk about our times at the press box with Bobby Z. I think it just had to be because I was saying something nice.
It was kind words, though, Thrift. Very kind words. He's one of a kind as far as a local talent in Columbus. Dominated sports talk radio. Just press box of Bobby Z and friends. That's where it was at. 5 days a week. I mean,
unbelievable. I enjoyed every minute of it. He talked about Edmo Brady. We had Dark Knight. We had so many great guests. I can't think of the guy's name. There was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Crazy. I can't think of his name right now. He would know what I'm talking about. But these guys, they were characters. He let them just come on and just be goobers. He got to talk sports. He had guys like Pate and Rivers and Buckets, all of us. To see now Buckets working for ESPN, where we're at, Tyler Redmond at WRBL, Pate on his ascending trend, Rivers. I mean, it really is pretty crazy what Bobby was able to do for all of us. And I think it's pretty incredible. Bobby, I was just saying, just all of us that we're able to learn from you. It is always greatly appreciative. I hope Michael's doing well. And you mean the world to me, man. And I hope I get to see you in the near future. And I never forget the opportunity that you gave me back in the day. And I hope all is well with you, man.
Well, thanks. I had to dip there for a minute because I couldn't take all the nice things you guys were saying about me.
Yeah.
Thank you. It means a lot to me. I appreciate it. And you guys just keep doing your thing, man. It's cool to watch you guys. It really is. I'm 63 years old now, getting old. And, if I was able to help a few of you guys along the way, that's what we're all supposed to do anyway. Yeah. And I get to sit back now and watch you guys succeed. I'm too damn old to do it anymore. And it's fun. It's fun to watch you guys do your thing, man. That day I saw Josh on CBS, I dropped my soda in my living room.
Unbelievable.
Still got a spot on the damn rug. But it's pretty awesome seeing you guys do what you guys have a passion for. And that's something that a lot of people don't get in life. They go to work and it's not what they like doing, but they have to do it. And if you got a passion for something and you can make a living on it, like I was fortunate to do for 30 years, do it, man, because the memories I have are thick. And again, to watch you guys, as I was able to pass on a little bit to you guys, watch you guys do your thing is reward enough for me right now.
And I'm going to end it with this. I say this a lot on the Sports Vision radio show because DJ, he pulls so many celebrity guests because, DJ playing in the NFL, being an agent. I mean, he got to meet a lot of people. So I try to be nice to our guests. This is not me being nice. This is me being sincere and genuine. The best in the business when it comes to sports talk around this area. Nobody's going to be a Bobby Z. And we just hope that we are making you proud, man. Thank you again, Bobby. And I hope to have you on in the near future.
See you, Bobby.
Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Love you too. Thank you, Bobby. And that is Bobby Z of the Press Box. And excellent interview. It meant the world to me to be able to talk to him. Like I said, I was so nervous sending the Facebook message, Richard. I just wanted an opportunity. I got to intern over the summer. I got to intern twice with him. He allowed me to go and talk and gave me pointers and helped me grow as a broadcaster into what I am today. All right, Richard, let's continue now, and let's talk a little college basketball before we get out of here. first things first. Auburn Tigers, after looking like they were one of the best teams in the country, have lost 2 in a row. The Tennessee Volunteers lose on the road to South Carolina. Right now, the SEC is up in air. Kentucky's lost to South Carolina. That's back-to-back top 10 wins for South Carolina. Alabama right now is technically
they're in first place.
They're in first place. I do think as it all plays out, Auburn will be fine. They'll be a top 4 seed. But the SEC basketball right now is deep and could have 8, maybe 9, who knows, even 10 NCAA tournament teams this year. This is the best the conference has been in a few years.
It truly has. And when you think of a team like Ole Miss, that's a bubble team, and Florida's a bubble team, and Georgia's not even – I don't even know why – I don't understand why Joe Lunardi just doesn't like Georgia. He did this with Georgia back in 2015.
It's because also, too, when it comes to putting a team in, how have you been recently is something that comes into effect. Whether they want to admit it or not, when the committee is picking a team, they want to pick a team. Has this team been relevant in recent years? And when looking at Georgia, they're not going to get the benefit of that doubt. They also don't have the greatest schedule, and they're going to have to win. Going to have a top 25 win at home at some point this season and 20 wins to even think about being a lower 10 or 11 seed to get into the NCAA tournament.
There's no question about that, Thrift, but I think that in order for Georgia to get into this tournament, they're going to have to win the games that they are supposed to win and sneak in a couple of wins. That game against Auburn, I mean, they've got to win that game. They got to beat Alabama tonight. I mean, that's the only way they're going to get into the tournament. Otherwise, they're going to be in the NIT, and that's – look, Thrift, South Carolina – Haynes back-to-back NIT banners. You remember the Ronaldo Balkman years? Yeah. They can actually hang that in their gymnasium with pride. Yes, they did go to the Final Four, but they have 2 NIT championships. Yeah. It's not the end of the world if Georgia goes to the NIT, and they can end up winning it.
Yeah, and I think Coach Mike White's doing a good job. But I think it's the Big 12, and then it's the SEC. Think about saying that. We have not said that in recent years. ACC, Big 10, all those conferences, even Pac-12. Have been better than the SEC. Not this year. It's Big 12 because the Big 12's got Houston, Iowa State, Texas Tech, Kansas, TCU, Oklahoma, Baylor, and BYU. They have 8 teams in the top 25. So they're not that conference. And then they got Cincinnati and Kansas State who could also make the tournament. That's right now, Lenardi has 10 Big 12 teams. The SEC is probably not going to get there. I know I was saying that in jest. But my favorites right now, UConn, I think has a chance to go back-to-back this year. Marquette's been playing really good basketball since struggling early in the season. They were a top 4 team coming in preseason this year, Richard. Wisconsin, they're number 6 right now. Coach Greg Card, they really believe in this Wisconsin team, and they think that Wisconsin can, going back to the Bo Ryan days, can make a Final Four playoff run. Kentucky, Tennessee, competitive teams in the SEC, along with Auburn. And I probably put Alabama as teams that can make deep runs. Not ready to buy in on South Carolina. I think they're going to make the tournament, but not ready to buy on them as maybe a potential championship team. Obviously, Arizona is a good team. Duke, they're loaded. So I'm not ready to buy into them yet. I need him to, and that's I can't think of his name now. John Shire. He's got to prove to me in the offseason. But parity, it's up for grabs. We say this every single week. We talk about it. And now as we start getting deeper into conference play, Kansas, who I thought was the best team coming in this year, they already got 4 losses, 3 of them in conference. And a lot of that has to do with the Big 12 being as loaded as they are. But you couldn't tell me, other than maybe UConn, because even North Carolina, who buckets, we said on the Sports Visions radio show, that was one of his favorites to win it all this year. They just lost to Georgia Tech. Shout out to Persian Williams. Spencer graduate as an assistant coach on Georgia Tech with a win.
Huge win last night at Bacamish Pavilion, 74-73. They stormed the court, obviously. Georgia Tech's having a tough year. First-year coach Damian Stoudemire. They are a middle-of-the-road ACC team. They've been this way under the Paul Hewitt years, the Brian Gregory, Josh Pastner. I do believe they got the right coach. I think that Coach Stoudemire is going to get Georgia Tech to the glory days of Bobby Crimmins. When they went to the Elite Eight in 1985 with Mark Price and John Sally, and then Lethal Weapon 3 going to the Final Four in 1990. That team with B.J. Elder, Jarrett Jack, Will Bynum that went to the championship game against UConn in 2004. Can we get Georgia Tech back to those glory days? I want to see it.
Yeah, well, maybe it'll happen, and I think they got the right guy leading it, and I'm glad Coach Persian Williams is a part of that staff. And now look at Auburn, and we're going to speak specifically this week. Georgia needs to get a win over Alabama, I think. Alabama, they're going to make the tournament, but it's like, do they want to be a top seed? If they continue and they only lose 3 games in the conference play, I know they had a lot coming in. I think they're 14 or 15-6 right now. They had 5 losses coming in before conference play started. But even if they lose 3 games, they get 8 losses on the season, I still see them maybe being a 2-3 seed because of the wins and the teams they face and the schedule they had this year. Auburn needs to win both games this week if they want to be a top seed. Again, these teams are going to make the tournament, Alabama and Auburn. But do they want to be a top 4 seed? Auburn's going to have to win Vanderbilt, and they're definitely going to start winning on the road. They blew out Arkansas, but back-to-back road losses against Mississippi State and Alabama, both winnable games. I'm not worried about it too much with this Auburn team, but they got face a frisky NCAA tournament team, Ole Miss, led by Chris Beard this week. So we'll see how the rest of the week plays out. But South Carolina, Lamont Paris, 18-3, 6-2. How about the South Carolina Gamecocks as a surprise to the SEC this year?
Well, the way that the Big 12 is playing, and even the Big East, if you look at the projected seeds, I think that there's a possible chance that the SEC might get left out of the number 1 and number 2 seeds. We might see Tennessee, Kentucky, number 3 seeds, Auburn, Alabama, number 4 seeds. I mean, that's what it's looking like. It's just because the SEC is cannibalizing each other. I think that the number 1 seeds right now, Purdue, Houston, UConn, and with North Carolina losing, I still think they're a number 1 seed. I think that those are your number 1 seeds. What do you think, Thrift?
I think that you're right about that right now. But I think a lot can change then. Again, UConn, Purdue, Houston, and then you said North Carolina. They may have fallen out of that line. Again, we'll see. Tennessee also lost too. They're their number 5. They were right on the number 1 line, and they lost against South Carolina yesterday. But thank you again for everybody that's tuned in. Tomorrow we'll be at CVCC, Richard. Friday, right now, it's Heritage Pacelli, Hardaway Shaw. And Saturday, we don't have a game for sure. So be on the lookout. Check our Facebook pages. We'll keep you up to date on if there's any changes in broadcasting this week. Thank you to Bobby Z. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in. We've enjoyed talking sports, NFL. I mean, what can we say, Richard? The 49ers pull one out of their butt again.
I don't know how they did it.
And if you're the Lions, you got to go for the points. I know it's been hashed on, but you definitely got to go for the points at least one of those field goal times, because it would have made a difference in the game, Richard. It would have decided if they are going to overtime or losing by 3 like they did, running the football at the end instead of, throwing it and being able to burn a timeout so you know for sure that you're not going to get an onside kick. You have no chance. That was tough. And Lamar Jackson's showing, Richard, I hate to say this, it's going to be hard for a team. All things have to align for them to win a Super Bowl. You're seeing with Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, they got a good defense, but offensively they have struggled. But he can still win because he's that good of a quarterback. If all things are not perfect for Lamar, you're seeing they're struggling. And I don't know why they didn't run him more. And I think that's something that John Harbaugh and Todd Monken are definitely kicking themselves for not utilizing him, which is he's not a pocket passer. Let him be Lamar. And if he gets injured, he gets injured. But it's better to play that way than lose the way they did on Sunday. But 49ers Chiefs, a rematch of the 2019 Super Bowl, probably the 2 best teams. Got the best quarterback, taking on the best overall team. Shanahan, Reed, good matchup. Can't wait for it. It's going down in Las Vegas. And you saw the prices are like $3 grand,
it's unbelievable.
$100 million grand to sit up in the nosebleed. It seems like, but hey, the Chiefs, they're showing they are the Patriots.
They're the new Patriots. They're the team of the 2020s.
And it really is mind-boggling, and maybe that's what's going to happen in college football. Nick Saban retires, Kirby Smart becomes the next Nick Saban, and they win championships, and they do a full dynasty like Alabama did right after Alabama. And everybody's saying that it's not going to happen. We're seeing it happen in the NFL. The Patriots, a run again, I don't know if the Chiefs are going to last for 16 years as long as they did. That is not going to happen. But I can see 10 as long as Mahomes is playing. Why won't they play for a Super Bowl or conference championship? 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 6 conference championships in a row. They're one or a couple away from tying New England's record. Then playing in another Super Bowl 4 of the last 5 years. And if they win it, that's 3 in the last 5 years. Richard, come on now. Eventually, back to back, you're going to have to say they're dynasty.
I agree. They are a dynasty, but this is probably the worst Chiefs team that we've seen make it to the Super Bowl. And they're vulnerable. They have lost to the Buccaneers. Remember that. The 49ers were up 20-10 in that Super Bowl in 2020. The 49ers have something to prove. I think they match up well with the Chiefs. There's a reason why they're a 2-point favorite. You can never count out Patrick Mahomes. He finds a way to win. I mean, he was able to make incredible plays against that Baltimore Ravens defense. But the San Francisco 49ers have better weapons. They do. I don't think there is a receiver out there like Deebo Samuel. And you have Brandon Ayuk. The Chiefs don't even have a number one receiver. You got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who hasn't caught anything in the regular season, and all of a sudden he catches everything in the postseason. And Rashid Rice, who is a rookie receiver, all of a sudden he's Tyreek Hill. Patrick Mahomes just makes everybody better. But I do think that the scheme of Kyle Shanahan and also the play calling of Andy Reid, that's going to be the matchup in this Super Bowl. I think it's going to be a high-scoring Super Bowl, and I think these two teams are just going to go back and forth, and I can't wait. This is going to be a fun and exciting Super Bowl.
Yeah, and we'll dissect that next week, and we'll have DJ Jones on to talk about it next Wednesday. I'm going to say this before we go. It didn't make any sense to me why the Falcons didn't hire Bill Belichick, but the Falcons are going to do what the Falcons do. I'm with Bobby. Arthur Blank's old. He wants to win. If you want to win now, you hire Bill Belichick. You go get Fields. You go get Kirk Cousins, and you can win now with this roster. You hired Raheem Morris. And in the long term, he may be the right hire.